Once again, my name is Miriam Chamberlain, and I am the event host today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Zoe Bowman. Zoe is a registered psychotherapist with Recharge EAP, and her mission is to help people pursue meaningful lives. Can't wait for today's session. This one is the topic of this session is rest as a superpower, and I would love to know what that means, Zoe. So
I
let's get
know.
started.
We were joking in the back, like, what the heck is rest, really? We both have kids, and it's just, I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's a fiction, this idea of feeling rested. But then I remind myself that there are ways into rest. Um, and that's why we're here today to kind of explore what that could look like for you, and how you can kind of navigate your day and all the insane demands that you're having to attend to, and meetings and people negotiations and taking care of other folks, and then all of those things in between. How do you get from the beginning of the day to the end of the day and still have energy for those things that are meaningful to you?
Can't wait for it, Zoe.
Yeah, so
Take
that's
it
what we're
away.
doing. Here we go.
Here we
Uh,
go.
yeah, just about me. I'm one of the psychotherapists with the Recharge EAP alternative program. Um, and mental wellness is kind of like that's my area, of course, as a registered psychotherapist and as an art therapist, kind of bringing in that creative component into the work that we do. That said, unfortunately, there's no fun creativity today. I'm just going to be talking at you, so my apologies. Um, but Yeah, we're all familiar with this equation. You get good sleep. Adequate sleep would be about 7 to 8 hours in a night, and therefore you should be feeling rested. But I imagine that all of us at this point in our lives and at this point navigating the pandemic have realized that this equation is quite false. And so today, my goal is to help us expand this idea of what rest is. Good sleep, yes, that's an important foundation, but also sleep, we have limited control over the quality of sleep that we get. Speaking from experience as a new mom. So, what is it, those add ons that contribute to feeling well rested? That's what I want to be looking at today. What I've found to be most helpful for me is to think about rest as meaning restoration, that ability to replenish and restore our natural and optimal capacities within our whole bodies. Um, and I mean, that's great, but why? Why do we want to rest? And why is it worthwhile taking some very precious time out of our very busy days to slow down? First off, it contributes to those good feelings. So, that good feeling sustaining throughout the day from the beginning of your day all the way down to the evening. It also helps to increase and soothe your moods so that you're not going through such drastic, rapid changes in fluctuations in those moods. It also helps with your overall performance. Being well rested allows you to navigate those challenges that come your way more quickly and more effectively. And you can also, when you're well rested, as you all know, your focus is much better. It's more primed, it lasts longer, and it's sharper. It allows you to get the work done that you need to get done. Um, that energy, definitely that underlying factor of not, I mean, how often have you or the people that you're working with come to the end of their workday, 5 o'clock if you're lucky, closed your computer and had energy left over to do the things that you like to do? Not just the cooking your meals, tidying your house, taking care of the folks that you need to take care of, but actually having that energy to engage in things that are fun, that are you, or to spend it with people that you really love. So that's why rest is such a beautiful thing. And then, in terms of mental wellness, being able to rest effectively throughout your day is one of the number one factors that helps to prevent and reduce burnout. And I'm sure that all of us have experienced burnout at some point, maybe just a little bit or maybe a lot. But I would imagine that at this point, here today and throughout your careers, you've witnessed how burnout can just run rampant through companies. And it's when that ability to rest effectively and throughout your day is not put into priority. So, in a moment, I'm going to look at, what really do I mean by rest? But I wanted to start here and play with this idea of what do I mean by resting effectively? And it's quite simple, actually. Um, you first want to look at bringing in a bunch of different things to do for rest. So it's not just laying down for a little while, taking a little cat nap. Can be delicious, but there's more to that. So, looking at different ways to help your body and your mind rest. You're going to want to be doing that as frequently as you can, putting little pockets of rest throughout your day. And then to do that consistently, not just in your day, but throughout your weeks, throughout your months, and throughout your years. And really bringing that into routine can really help you feel more buoyant in your life and more effective at the tasks that you choose to engage in. So, lucky for us, as I mentioned earlier, rest is not just sleep. And there's been a good amount of research done by a psychologist named Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, who looks at 7 different types of rest. And I really love this because I feel like this is a nice holistic approach to helping ourselves rest. And it gives us a lot of space to play with that aspect of being diverse in the way that we rest. So I'm going to go through these each one bit by bit and look at what rest in those types can look like, but also how you might know what type of rest you need to help yourself feel better. So let's start there because that's kind of the foundation. We all have this tendency to get so caught up in the work that we're doing or in the lives that we're living that sometimes we don't have that ability to really untangle what's going on. So we'll just start simply. And as I go through this list, just take note of what you have noticed in your body throughout today or the last couple of weeks, just to see if this can help serve as an entry point into becoming more effective at rest. So your body is tired. That's going to show up as, tense shoulders for a lot of us, sore backs, or just not having energy to engage in literally anything. For our mental exhaustion, it's going to show up as irritation, fluctuations in your mood, or forgetfulness. So things that aren't in your calendar slip by, or maybe even things that are in your calendar slip by because your mind isn't able to really hone into those things. For a lot of the people that I work with, they come to me with challenges in anxiety, those racing thoughts, thinking about what's going to happen next, always living in the future. This can really be a sign of mental exhaustion as well. For sensory exhaustion, you're going to be having headaches or feeling very frazzled. That feeling of just being overstimulated, which really doesn't feel good in the body. That's going to be an indicator that you need some sensory rest. For all of us as helpers and as people who give our time and attention to other people, often emotional depletion is going to come up quite frequently. You'll notice that when you feel like it's just too much for you and the efforts that you're putting in aren't being recognized or appreciated. Or most upsetting, at least especially for me in my capacity, is when that emotional numbness creeps in and you're not able to connect and really empathize with the people that you're working with. Or you're just not feeling the emotions that you should be feeling in your own body. That's a sign that that needs to rest and restore. For social, and this is a huge one right now as we're kind of going in and out of lockdowns and pandemic life, that feeling of loneliness or that feeling of being really overstimulated in those social interactions that you have. um, for creative depletion, having a hard time coming up with new ideas or thinking outside of the box, or difficulty just starting any projects, feeling really stuck, that's a sign that your creativity needs a little bit of juice. And that last one, the spiritual aspect, is not being able to connect with that sense of purpose in our lives. So, how are we going to rest? And what does effective and efficient rest look like within these different categories? I guess for the sake of today, since we're quite condensed, I've really limited some examples within these different categories, but I want to encourage you to let yourself be a bit creative and just think of things if you know that you need some rest in these certain categories. Let yourself think of the things that you like to do. That's the easiest place to start. So for physical, it's divided into two. We have that sleep, which is a human foundational need in our ability to rest. But then there are also things that you can do. Doing a HIIT workout or something a bit more soothing like yoga, going for a massage. Those are all ways to help melt that tension out of your body. Um, for mental overstimulation, you're going to want to reduce that stimuli. And the same goes for sensory as well, actually, it's just reducing that stimulation. So that can look like closing your laptop, trying to avoid the pull of social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those really keep our minds active, even though we're doing a more passive scrolling. It doesn't equal rest. Something that can be really wonderful for you to do is to take a few minutes and look outside, look out your window, just notice what's out there. Maybe you're lucky enough to have some trees, some nature views out there, and you can kind of see the branches blowing in the wind. I'm not so lucky, but I have some windows that I can peek into and imagine what the life in that next window might look like. So that's something that you can do there. Another one that I love to do, being so glued to my computer all the time, is to take off my glasses and just press the palms over my hand, really making cups of darkness, really taking away all light stimuli and letting the eyes rest can feel so nourishing. Um, for emotional restoration, this one can be actually quite hard, especially when you're used to being um, such a giver to others. But in order to restore within the emotional capacities, you need to prioritize your own well being. That means taking a little bit of time to you where you're not trying to serve others. That means saying how you're really feeling. So if somebody chimes in and says, "Oh, how are you doing today?" Our natural response is to say, "I'm fine." But if you're something different than fine, if you're having a hard day, just say it. You don't have to take up a lot of space with it, but just to name it can be such a release.
Zoe, I'm just going to
Yes.
jump in because we are short for time, but we do have one question that came through.
Yeah.
So, how do you rest effectively with Zoom fatigue? Such a great question.
Yeah. So real. Um, taking little breaks throughout the day, if you have even 5 minutes, and this is something I'm going to get into in a moment, but taking micro breaks, um, 5 minutes or less, where you just look away from the screen, take these ear pods out. By the end of a clinical day for me, I am so done with having these ear pods in. Um, doing this one, looking out the window, closing your eyes, trying to reduce the screen time as much as you possibly can will help with that, like visual overstimulation. And then in terms of all of, I mean, Zoom brings up so many different challenges, um, but finding ways where you can maybe predict what's going to happen or what you need to do, or giving yourself the permission to say, like, is this really worth a Zoom call right now, or can we make it an audio call, and can I go for a walk? And asking for those permissions and finding the people who support you in that. Um, those are some ways you can get in there.
For sure, that's great, Zoe. Thank you. We do have to wrap up, so maybe half a minute to wrap up the session,
Sure.
and then maybe you can let the audience know how they can get in touch with you if they are looking for more information.
Yeah. So you guys can all read. You see those last ones. So again, that idea of micro breaks, taking 5 minutes or less in your day, kind of every hour on the hour, if you can be such a beautiful way to boost up that sense of restoration. tap into as many different elements of those as you can to go for that holistic whole body approach. And yeah, this is us. So we put on lunch and learns like this in mental wellness for your companies. If you want to know more, check out rechargeeap.ca. And if you have questions for me directly, you can contact me through that website or Zoe R. Bowman, Zoe Bowman with a little letter R in the middle at gmail.com. I'd be happy to connect with you. And that
Wonderful.
is that.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Appreciate your time here with us today.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
thank
for tuning in, everybody.
yeah, and thank you for all the participants today.